Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Angela Miller. She is the Director of Marketing and Publications at the Institute for Supply Management. Angela, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Oh, thanks so much, Logan. It's going great. I appreciate the time to speak with you.
Absolutely. So you guys recently went through a website redesign, and we're going to be talking about 4 key lessons that you took away from that experience and talk about some tactics that other marketers going through this process or thinking about it here in the near future might be able to learn from that. But before we jump straight into today's topic, I would love for you to share with listeners a little bit about yourself and what you and your team are up to these days for a little bit of context.
Okay. Well, I've been in marketing for a long time. You know, when I went to undergrad at Ohio State, I actually ended up with an English and political science degree, and I'm not really sure what it was I was going to do with my life. And so I kind of fell into marketing and then went back to grad school to make it official. But I've worked for companies large and small, from Honeywell down to startups. And I guess where I found my niche to be is really kind of building organizations and helping to set strategy. So that's really been my focus. At ISM, from a team perspective, we've been around for over a century, but we're really focused in on what's the modern association look like. So we're doing a lot of things like a website redesign, which we're living through right now. We haven't quite gone live yet, but really how can we serve our members better, especially as our audience needs change.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you put that. I went back and made it official. That's just fantastic to hear on your journey in marketing. And I think you have a lot of experience, as you mentioned, from companies large and small that inform your approach. So let's dive right into these 4 things that you think other marketers should be thinking about as they're going through a website redesign or rebuild. Number 1 is about challenging some of those beliefs or those things that may be held sacred to the team, especially if, you've got a company that's over a century old. You guys probably encountered some of those going through this process. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I definitely think it's such an important key topic. I think a lot of times, we try to make nice within an organization, and a project like this really offers you an opportunity to, I call them sacred cows, to really question, why is it that we do what we do, and what is, get to the root of the why. I think this takes a little finesse because obviously you're working across the organization and you might be working with people that's been doing it this way and that's the way we do it. But you really have to kind of, listen and hear the reason and the heart of why, but really kind of balance it up against, is this the best user experience? Is this what the customers are ultimately expecting and the visitors and kind of the goals? Does it really align with your current and future strategy and vision for the organization? What are the demands on the resources to kind of institute this sacred cow? So we've been kind of going through a lot of these types of discussions, which obviously can add to the time and focus for the website redesign. But it's such a great time to be able to uncover these types of things because it only is going to make that user experience better when you ultimately launch your website.
Absolutely. And so as you and I were talking before recording this interview, you mentioned something to me that where this kind of came up for you guys that other marketers could start to, I think, visualize and see the story was in the way that you approach the site navigation. Can you tell us about, some of the maybe tension for lack of a better term, but some of the obstacles there and the kind of pull in two different directions that you had to contend with and work your way through that fall in line with challenging some of these sacred cows, as you call them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times, the website can sometimes be a reflection of the way the organization is organized. So I think that was one of the sacred cows that we really walked through is the way that we were, kind of had our site navigation was really the way that our products were set up and the way that our organization was run. And that's not necessarily the way our customers look for things. So it was a lot of conversation and really kind of putting the perspective of what's the best user experience. And at the end of the day, your team is very passionate about user experience and we're not for profit. So we're about moving the profession forward. So I think when we started to put things into context and help them put that lens on, they really started to see the value of why that was important that we change it. But it took, a lot of conversations and, being willing to listen and, hear the challenges that they have and really then being able to show from the lens of the customer of why it's important for us to reorganize the way that our site will be, the site navigation will be.
I love what you're saying there, Angela, about thinking about the customer experience rather than coming at it through the lens of how do we organize our products? How do we organize the company internally? Because I think there are some just subtle biases in the way that we think about things and the way that we structure things in our minds that then are going to influence how we think about how our site should be laid out. But we really need to deploy a lot of empathy to the customer's situation and put, their glasses on and try and see through their eyes, which actually leads us to number 2 of your 4 pieces of recommendation. And that is thinking about the full experience, which, other than just the high level, actually comes down to some very nitty gritty things like your notification copy and some other things. So tell us a little bit about how you guys made that shift and some of the areas that it actually applied to as you went through this process.
Sure. I've gone through major website redesigns like this, or rebuilds really a few times now. And it really has opened up my mind with each project on the things that you need to account for in the project and really think about that full experience because sometimes you're only going halfway with the website being kind of launched and redesigned. You do have to think about those elements or pieces that really do say something about who you are as an organization and what is the message that you're trying to send. So notifications has always become like a real big side project, really. So the website triggers a lot of these notifications that, you've got items left in the shopping cart. You have an order that was completed. They signed up for an e-newsletter. So a lot of times this is a great opportunity to kind of shine in your personality. What's the tone of your organization? So really rewriting the copy to kind of help to emulate and progress that tone. And, is it an opportunity to bring up other things that they may be interested in because of what this notification was triggered by? So I think thinking about notifications is really important. I think we talked about the 404 access denied. I mean, literally, it was just yesterday that one of the developers showed us the page that basically access is denied. We're a membership organization. And it made me laugh. We actually were joking about it on, the whole access denied was even the URL structure. So it was like our URL/access denied. And we're like, ow.
Let's drive it home that access is denied in the URL, in the page copy, everything, right?
So we're like, okay, this is an opportunity for us to maybe rethink about even the URL, the plain language URL, and really think about the messaging. For us, it's about membership. And the reason why their access is denied is either they're not logged in or they are not a member that gets these kind of benefits. So let's put a positive spin on it. In the 404, it's like, let's have some fun with it. That they haven't found what they're looking for. Well, one, let's put in a search bar to make it really easy for them to find what it is they're looking for, and maybe make some suggestions. Here's the most popular things people are searching for. So, there are a lot of these opportunities that, are the finer details that I think make a website redesign all the better, is to think about that full experience in these little key pieces.
Yeah, I love it. As much as marketers as we want to talk about thinking through the mind of our customers and trying to deploy empathy there, if we don't actually have some examples of how to execute that, then we could just talk till we're blue in the face. But I love the examples that you shared there. Another one that kind of pops to my mind, just as a user, an experience I had with our t-shirt provider that we ordered our Sweetfish t-shirts through. Once you ordered your first, you got on their email list. When you go to unsubscribe, for some reason, there's a unicorn there. And when you go to unsubscribe, the unicorn becomes a donkey with a really grumpy face. And so it makes you laugh. So that's a good experience, even if you do unsubscribe, because now you've got that some sort of emotional experience with that brand. And two, kind of made me think twice about unsubscribing because I didn't want to turn that unicorn into a sad, grumpy donkey. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. Maybe that necessarily doesn't fit with your brand, but just there's something better than just the default access denied in those sorts of scenarios, or different notifications that we could just put a little bit more thought and intention to.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know we're big proponents of putting out original, organic content on LinkedIn. But one thing that's always been a struggle for a team like ours is to easily track the reach of that LinkedIn content. That's why I was really excited when I heard about Shield the other day from a connection on, you guessed it, LinkedIn. Since our team started using Shield, I've loved how it's let us easily track and analyze the performance of our LinkedIn content without having to manually log it ourselves. It automatically creates reports and generates some dashboards that are incredibly useful to see things like what content's been performing the best and what days of the week are we getting the most engagement and our average views per post. I'd highly suggest you guys check out this tool if you're putting out content on LinkedIn. And if you're not, you should be. It's been a game changer for us. If you go to shieldapp.ai and check out the 10-day free trial, you can even use our promo code B2B Growth to get a 25% discount. Again, that's shieldapp.ai, and that promo code is B2B Growth. All one word. All right, let's get back to the show.
Number 3 on your suggestions for folks going through a website redesign, Angela, is thinking about ways that you can drive engagement, which are going to have a number of SEO benefits as you do things to decrease your bounce rate, increase time on page. Tell us about, kind of your thinking here and some examples as it's played out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, all of us as marketers, we want to be the experts at what it is that we're delivering. And the website, a lot of times, is our main portal to a customer base or potential customer base. So Google measures us based on engagement. And so it's a real good opportunity to not just say, okay, we'll clean up the copy, we'll make sure it's keyword aligns, with the content that we're trying to deliver. But it's also looking and saying, what's the engagement on this page? Is there an opportunity to connect with the user? So it could be about, like helping them go deeper. We're really doing some things with our digital magazine that, we have a print version, but taking advantage of digital and saying, is there opportunities where they can go deeper into a topic? So obviously we still have the kind of the print version of the delivery, but we're, some of the people that we're talking to give us, videos that we can kind of have a deeper dive into a case study that relates to the topic, pictures, tools. So we're thinking, that helps them kind of drive deeper into the website to other things. And, we're also thinking about experiences that are engaging for them. So a lot of our corporate customers, we're talking about sort of an engagement tool that, asks them questions about, the things that they're looking to enhance, their talent development and help to retain talent within the profession. So by answering some of these questions, they get something that's a little bit more customized for them, in terms of the results. So that, helps the time on page, of course, but at the end of the day, it's kind of about that customer experience. They're gaining something valuable out of it too. And that should be ultimately our goal. But it's thinking through this engagement piece that, helps us win points with Google.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I heard something the other day from one of our team members that, every time that Google has an update, better content wins because they're just
Yes.
getting better and better at what they're trying to solve for, directing users, searchers to the right content that is the most helpful. So we do want to think about things strategically and how do we optimize. But at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head, Angela. We should be thinking about the user experience that is going to drive those things that are going to be the KPIs that Google's looking for anyway. If we try to just optimize
Right.
around, those tactics, with forgetting, the actual human on the other side, we're going to end up losing. You may win for a little bit, just like in the early days of SEO, the keyword stuffed pages that were just garbage that you would
Yeah.
land on that made the first page of Google. With each and every iteration of Google's algorithm change, better content is winning. So I love that balanced approach of, keeping in mind the best practices, but just delivering great content and thinking about how do I keep the human engaged, not just, how do I make that number of time on page increase? Because when you think about the human, that time will increase. So I'm just
Yeah.
so in line with what you're sharing there. And I think that's a good example of, thinking about tools like a calculator or something like that, that can keep them engaged and give them something personalized that isn't, something you've got to create all sorts of custom pages for, just something to give them some value and be able to generate some sort of custom result. All right. As we wrap things up today, Angela, number 4 on your list ties to website redesign, but it's been a theme for you in your marketing career as well. And that is agile is your friend. Tell us a little bit about why this has become a mantra for you and the role it plays in a website project like this.
Well, I mean, as marketers, we, obviously have to juggle a lot, and I'm certainly juggling a lot in my current, organization. So agile is a way and a framework with a project that brings all parties onto the same page. And it really helps, I think, to limit the insanity a bit, and I think drive more efficiency and success. So some of the things that have really helped me is, especially like as it pertains to a website or really any project, is think about the order of things and how it's delivered. So for us, as an example, for the website, because we're a member-based association, log in and log out is a pretty critical component. And so for us, that kind of became one of the first deliveries from a development standpoint that we needed to do, because everything after that would utilize that particular piece. So it's really thinking about sort of the order of the delivery of the components. And then 2, like making sure you're really good friends with your IT development department, your front end and your back end, your project teams, those who are maybe the source of some of the content areas, making sure that you guys are all on the same page, and so that everybody's online in terms of the delivery and what the roles and expectations are, so that when you kind of complete something, you can kind of do an iterative delivery of, these components or pages. You make sure everything works. And people don't have to remember going back, a few steps or going, they're from a project plan. They're not trying to like skip around. A lot of people can just get one thing done and do it well. And there's also sort of that sense of accomplishment. And then move on to the next piece that kind of builds upon what you just finished. So I have noticed that has been a true friend in this website redesign type of project. But I've noticed it for major projects within marketing that has been really helpful as well, is thinking about the approach, like for instance, for our events, what are some really critical elements we need to deliver from the beginning and what builds upon that? So in terms of campaigns, the event web page, those types of things, what are the critical elements of the project and who are the resources and people involved? And what should that delivery look like? Because then you kind of get success, and it also you see problems sooner that you can fix.
Seeing problems sooner is always a good thing. I love the way that you rounded that out, Angela. And your experience has definitely lended itself to communicating some very tactical advice for other marketers that are going through the same process. So I really appreciate you sharing that today. We talked about challenging sacred cows, as you mentioned, thinking about the full user experience. You may have some blinders on, or kind of a perspective that is heavily influenced by the way your company or your product portfolio is organized. And you kind of need to throw that out. And you may end up back there, but maybe not. And start with the customer in mind there. Thinking about your SEO strategy, don't just think about, the hacks, but think about how do we actually drive user engagement. And then number 4, taking an agile approach. And you did a great job talking about, some of the key benefits there. Angela, if anybody listening to this, like myself, has gotten value from what you've been sharing, wants to reach out, stay connected with you, pick your brain at all as a fellow marketer, what's the best way for them to reach out or stay connected with you?
I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm at Angela Miller NAZ is my handle.
Easy enough. Angela, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate the time, Logan.
Hey there, this is James Carberry, founder of Sweetfish Media and one of the co-hosts of this show. For the last year and a half, I've been working on my very first book. In the book, I share the 3-part framework we've used as the foundation for our growth here at Sweetfish. Now, there are lots of companies that have raised a bunch of money and have grown insanely fast, and we've featured a lot of them here on the show. We've decided to bootstrap our business, which usually equates to pretty slow growth. But using the strategy outlined in the book, we're on pace to be one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies in 2020. The book is called Content-Based Networking: How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. If you're a fan of audiobooks like me, you can find the book on Audible, or if you like physical books, you can also find it on Amazon. Just search Content-Based Networking or James Carberry, Carbary, in Audible or Amazon, and it should pop right up.